Okay, I want to deal with some objections and then sum up what I've been discussing in this series. And then in the next video I'm going to deal with some philosophy and morality. But basically I'm going to wrap up the sections involving the Canaanites, Amalekites, and Midianites. Skeptic states how ironic it is that these obvious criminal wartime acts are not only perpetrated by the children of Israel but are commanded and condoned by their God. Well, first of all, the killing of non-combatants is not a war crime, and because of the nature of ancient Near Eastern warfare, this could not have been avoided. These same actions could be considered war crimes if a modern-day country such as the United States committed them today, because in modern-day warfare, the United States has means of avoiding many combat deaths and the resources to deal with refugees. However, ancient Israel did not have any of these options. And furthermore, God gave the Canaanites especially, and even in certain groups around the Amalekites and Midianites, opportunities to leave. And in one recorded case, when a Canaanite resident, Rahab, took sides with Israel, she and her whole family was spared. So God took steps to avoid innocent bloodshed despite the skeptic assertions. Another skeptic states, is justification for genocide that the inhabitants were sinners? Is it their non-belief in God of the Old Testament justification for murder, rape, and genocide? Well, first of all, well, yes, but it really wasn't that they were sinful, just like everyone else is sinful, and I think that's what the skeptic is getting at. These people were not only guilty of crimes against God, but they were guilty of crimes against their neighbors in a very violent and evil manner. In every case that we've talked about in this video series, whether we're talking about the Canaanites, Amalekites, and even the Midianites. Actually, it wasn't their non-belief or their belief in other gods, it was the way they practiced their religion that was oftentimes the problem. You know, their religion involving child sacrifice, which included children of other nations around them, as well as incest, bestiality, homosexuality, and cultic prostitution, and overall just a general hostility towards their neighbors. Israel was attacked by all these different groups at one time or another. Unprovoked attacks, suffered unprovoked attacks at the hands of these various groups. And as far as the accusation of murder, murder is defined as the unlawful killing of another human being with malice aforethought. I don't know how you can equate malice aforethought with acts of war, and especially in instances where a nation is defending itself, which was the case with Israel and the episode with the Amalekites, and even with the Midianites, which we just finished discussing. As far as the punishment on the Amorites, Canaanites was concerned, this was more of a deportation. I believe I made that case very well, and not one of genocide. In fact, genocide fails on many accounts, even in the Amalekite, Midianite stories. Another statement. How is this barbaric behavior different from militant Islamic believers? In current times, what about innocent people and babies that get blown up by suicide bombers in an outdoor market? Well, for the last 20 years, I know the U.S., when the U.S. bombs a building, the U.S. has a standing policy that if they know there will be children, innocent people in the building, they try to give some type of warning to remove the people. Now, if the people refuse to leave and the building is bombed, whose fault is it if the children are killed? God gave the Canaanites plenty of warnings, and they could have left because of their stubbornness and beliefs in their gods, and the ones, you know, again, their gods, the ones they sacrificed their children to, they refused. Frankly, it seems to me that it is the fault of the Canaanites and the Amalekites and the Midianites if their children were killed. And in my opinion, God did not want the children to be killed, and He made as many provisions possible to avoid it. So, you know, at the end of the day, you know, the bottom line is there was attempts made to spare the innocents. Another statement. In your discussion of the Israelite survival and considering their circumstances is extended only to the Israelites, not the people they enslaved, the children they murdered, the females they took for themselves, which is tantamount to rape by divine decree. Well, first of all, took for themselves wives, so it is tantamount to marriage. No marriage, no sex, no rape. Remember, fornication was sinful to Israel. This is not rape. Unless there was a marriage, there was no sex. Skeptic goes on, it is willful refusal to identify the affected Canaanites, not the inflictors, the Israelites, that enables such rationalization of all these morally wrong things as being acceptable in the name of your survival. You are saying that I am not considering what the Israelites endured or the times in which they lived in the world, and that would lead credence to the issue of slavery. Actually, it is willful refusal on the part of the skeptic to identify the facts as they are presented in the Scripture. The Canaanites were notorious, again, for things such as child sacrifice, especially sacrificing the children of other nations. What makes the skeptic so certain that the Canaanites are not the ones doing the afflicting and not the Israelites? And then, of course, the skeptic goes on. I'm asking you, as a Christian, to do the same thing for the conquered peoples of the land, especially those who were innocent non-adults. You know, the bottom line is I've answered all this about the Canaanites being innocent, and I've also answered the issues involving the non-adults. But something that the skeptic needs to think about is while Israel was wandering in the wilderness, they asked Moses to take them back to Egypt at one point. My point is that Israel really didn't want to do this at all. So why would they make it up? I just want to make some conclusions and then end the video. First conclusion: the Bible cases discussed and cited does not conform to known patterns of genocide, and therefore cannot legitimately be called genocide. Point 2. Constructing a logical contradiction, disproving God's existence, in this case would be exceptionally difficult at best. You would still have much work to do to be able to even offer it as a contradiction position, as an argument. Without such work, this objection is a simple assertion, unsubstantiated opinion or hunch or emotional statement. Point 3, we have real life trade-off decisions involving human life that create a presumption against the unilateral application of the to kill a child is always unjust without qualification or situational variance. Next point, the Canaanites had a long and violent history of aggression against early Israel and other nations as well, including involving raiding, plundering, and kidnapping their children for the slave trade and so forth. Next point, the fate of the innocents was a direct result of the horrible actions of their leaders, oftentimes the warrior class, whether it be the Canaanites, Amalekites, or Midianites. What skeptics describe as an unfair genocide of the Canaanites was a less than what they deserved punitive deportation from the land, filled with patience and mercy and second chances. It was nonetheless a judgment and nonetheless involved death. The military action against the Amalekites in 1 Samuel 15 was designed to completely eliminate the Amalekite presence in the desert, and the only option was wholesale destruction of the warrior military population. The episode in Numbers 31 with the Midianites was a judgment on both Israel and the Midianites. It was not genocide. And that's it.